Ever get that creepy feeling, like someone's looking over your shoulder when you're online?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, if you're using your company's computer or even their Wi-Fi, chances are someone probably is.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we're diving into today, these things called acceptable use policies, AUPs for short.
Yeah, AUPs, those digital rule books, right. We usually just skim through them during onboarding
Yeah.
and then forget they even
Not
exist,
really.
but they actually lay down the law on how we can use all that company tech.
Okay, so let's break this down. Why are companies so obsessed with these AUPs?
Right?
Is it just to stop us from, binge watching cat videos when we should be working?
I mean, there's that,
Right.
but it's a lot bigger than that. You got to think about it from their side, right? Companies are dealing with data breaches and cyber attacks left and right.
Hmm.
And then there's this whole mountain of legal stuff around data privacy. AUPs, they're like a way to manage all that risk and keep their reputation clean.
So they're like a digital shield protecting the company.
Exactly. AUPs help prevent those data leaks, make sure they're following all the rules, and protect all that valuable, intellectual property.
Makes sense.
It's not just about productivity,
Right, right.
although that's a big part of it.
Okay, so that's the company side. But what about us, the employees? I mean, can I really get fired for, checking my personal email during my lunch break?
Well, it's not about being a buzzkill.
Right.
It's about setting clear boundaries and making sure everyone's on the same page about what's at stake. Remember, when you're connected to their network, you're on their turf.
So that means, if I download a movie on my phone, even my personal phone,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm using the company's Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
could I still get in trouble?
You could,
Yeah.
especially if it's, against their policy on how you use bandwidth
Okay.
or downloading copyrighted stuff. The big thing to remember is that AUPs are there to protect both the company and us, the employees.
Right.
It's like a two-way street. When everyone's playing by the rules, you create this safer, more secure digital space.
Okay, so we get the why behind AUPs, but how about the how? I mean, do they really track everything we do online?
Yeah, they've got a whole toolbox they can use. Email monitoring, tracking your web browsing, logging every file you access, even tools that track what you're doing inside those cloud platforms, like Microsoft 365.
Wait, Microsoft 365, we use that for, everything.
Exactly. It's everywhere these days. And with that comes the ability to track stuff like data loss prevention. They can flag any suspicious activity and keep an eye on data transfers.
So, if I send a file to my personal email so I can, work on it at home,
Right.
that could set off alarms.
It could, especially if it's got sensitive info.
Oh,
It's a prime example of how these data loss prevention tools are meant to protect company info, even if your intentions are totally innocent.
starting to feel a bit like Big Brother, always watching.
I get it. The tech's out there for some pretty intense monitoring,
Hmm.
but it's not always about, having someone read every email you send.
Right.
It's more about these automated systems looking for red flags, specific keywords or actions that could signal a problem. But that doesn't mean we should just be careless with what we do online at work.
Right, of course. So what about VPNs? Don't those make you anonymous online?
Yeah.
Can we use those to get around all this monitoring?
VPNs are awesome for security, especially when you're on public Wi-Fi. They make this encrypted tunnel for your internet traffic so snoopers can't see what you're up to, but they don't make you invisible to your company.
Wait, I thought the whole point was to be anonymous.
The thing is, you got to see the difference between security and privacy. VPNs are all about security, protecting your data from being intercepted, right?
Yeah.
But if your company's the one giving you the VPN, they control both ends of that tunnel. They can still see the traffic going through it, even if it's encrypted.
So even with a VPN, my company can see what websites I visit.
They can see the addresses. They might not see the actual stuff on each page, but they can track your browsing habits and all that online activity.
Wow. It seems like companies have a whole arsenal of tools to keep tabs on us.
To do.
Can you give us a rundown of some of the specific monitoring software they use?
Oh, there's tons out there. But a few big names come to mind. Terramind, for example, they offer this super comprehensive monitoring. They track everything, keystrokes, what apps you use, what websites you visit, even screen captures.
Hold on. They can see what I type even if I delete it.
Some programs can capture keystrokes in real time. Kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Another one you'll see a lot is ActiveTrack. That one focuses on tracking your active time, what websites you visit, and what apps you're using. It's like a digital time card, helps companies see how you're spending your time
Got
and weed out any productivity issues.
So it's not just about security, it's also about making sure we're actually working.
You got it.
Hmm.
And then there's hub staff, which is mostly known for time tracking. But it also keeps an eye on things like your mouse movements and how much time you're actually active versus just, you know, idle.
Wow, so it really seems like they can track pretty much every move we make online. It makes you think, where do we draw the line between security and privacy in the workplace?
You hit the nail on the head. That's the million-dollar question. And it's something we'll keep unpacking as we go deeper into this world of AUPs.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of acceptable use policies.
Right, AUPs.
In part one, we talked about why companies have these policies and all the tools they use to keep an eye on what we're doing online.
Right, all that monitoring.
Yeah. So now, let's get into some real-life examples of how these policies actually play out.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so let's start with something I think we've all been tempted by at some point.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Social media.
Mm.
Scrolling through your feed when you have a few minutes to spare.
You and me both.
Is that a big no-no according to these AUPs?
It really depends on the company and their specific policy. Some places are really strict, They block certain websites altogether, or they only let you use social media during specific times, like your lunch break.
Right.
They're worried about people slacking off and losing productivity.
Yeah.
And also about data leaks, through things like phishing links or accidental downloads.
So even a quick peek at Instagram on my break could get me in trouble.
Potentially. It depends. If it's just a quick thing, probably not a big deal.
Okay.
But if you're constantly on it, or if it's against their specific policy, then yeah, you could be in hot water. Remember those company devices? They're meant for work stuff.
Right.
Any personal use has to be within the boundaries they set.
So no mindless scrolling.
Got it.
What about downloading files? Let's say I need a specific program for a project.
Okay.
But IT hasn't given it to me yet. Can I just download it from, some random website?
Not a good idea. Downloading stuff from those shady websites, that's a huge security risk. You could accidentally download malware or a virus.
Right.
And infect the whole company network. Plus, most AUPs specifically say no downloading unauthorized software.
So always go through the proper channels,
Yeah.
even if it takes longer.
Exactly. It's about protecting everyone.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about something more sensitive. Whistleblowing.
Oh, okay.
Imagine you see something unethical happening at your company,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to report it.
Right.
Can you use company resources to gather evidence? Like your work computer or email?
That's a tricky one. You'd think companies would want to encourage reporting any wrongdoing, right?
Absolutely.
And most do. They usually have clear procedures for whistleblowing. The important thing is to follow those procedures.
Okay.
Using company email or devices to gather or share sensitive info without permission, that could be seen as a breach of trust
I see.
and a violation of the AUP.
So even with the best intentions, you could still get in trouble if you don't follow the rules.
Yeah, that's the thing about AUPs. They cover so many different situations, and sometimes the lines get a bit blurry. Right. It's crucial to understand your company's specific policies. And if you're unsure about something, ask for guidance.
Don't just wing it.
Exactly.
All right, all of this is making me think about the bigger picture here. What are the ethical implications of all this monitoring?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a bit of a slippery slope when it comes to privacy in the workplace.
It's a tough balance to strike.
Yeah.
Companies have a legitimate reason to protect their data and make sure the work environment is safe, frankly.
Right.
But employees also have a right to privacy and some level of freedom at work.
Exactly.
And then you throw remote work into the mix, and it gets even more complicated. Where does work end and personal life begin?
It's all blurred together these days. So how do we find that balance, that sweet spot between security and privacy?
It takes open communication,
Okay.
clear guidelines, and a mutual understanding of the risks and benefits on both sides. Companies need to be transparent about their monitoring practices and make sure they're not overstepping boundaries. And employees need to be aware of their responsibilities and take steps to protect their own privacy.
So it's more of a partnership than, us versus them.
Exactly. We need to find ways to work together to create this digital workplace that's secure but also respects everyone's rights.
Okay, let's focus on remote work for a minute. How has that impacted AUPs and digital monitoring?
Oh, remote work has thrown a wrench in things.
Yeah.
When people are working from home, companies might feel like they need to monitor even more
Right.
to make sure everyone's actually working and to prevent security breaches.
Yeah.
But then it raises a whole bunch of new questions.
Like what?
Can they monitor my personal computer if I'm using it for work? What
Wow.
about my home Wi-Fi network?
Yeah.
These are some serious legal and ethical gray areas. Can companies really track what you do on your own devices?
Hmm.
Where does their authority end? These are questions that people are still debating, and I think we'll probably see more specific rules and regulations in the future.
It's like a legal minefield out there.
Yeah.
So what can we do as individuals to navigate this whole thing? I mean, this digital work environment is only getting more complex.
It is.
We'll dig into some practical tips and strategies in part 3, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been tackling these acceptable use policies.
Right, AUPs.
All this stuff about companies monitoring what we do online.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a wake-up call, don't you think?
It can be a bit overwhelming, all this info.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what they say, knowledge is power. What can we actually do to protect ourselves and our privacy, even with all this monitoring going on?
First things first, you got to really understand your company's AUP. And, I mean, really understand it. Don't just skim it. Print it out. Highlight the important parts. Make sure you get what they expect from you.
It's like actually reading those terms and conditions for once. Exactly. And if there's anything you're not sure about, ask. Seriously, don't be shy. Reach out to IT or HR. They can clarify things and make sure you're on the right track.
Okay, AUP. Check. What about our devices? Any advice for managing those in this new world of work?
Simple rule of thumb, keep your work stuff and personal stuff separate. Try not to check your personal email on your work laptop or open those sensitive work files on your personal phone.
Okay, so create a clear boundary.
Yeah, keeps things clean and minimizes the risk of accidentally breaking the rules.
Out of sight, out of mind. Hopefully out of those monitoring logs, too. What about passwords? Any tips for keeping those safe at work?
Strong passwords are key. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, the whole 9 yards. And please don't use the same password for everything.
No more password 123.
Definitely not. A password manager can be a lifesaver. It generates and stores those crazy complicated passwords for you so you don't have to remember them all.
Password manager, good tip. Okay, what about public Wi-Fi? Always feels a bit risky to me.
Yeah, public Wi-Fi is a bit like the Wild West out there. Not exactly known for its security. If you have to use it, try to avoid doing anything sensitive, like online banking or accessing work files.
Right.
And a VPN is your best friend in those situations.
So VPNs are good for more than just getting around those annoying geo-blocks on streaming sites.
Oh yeah, way more. They're essential for protecting your privacy and security, especially on public networks. A VPN basically encrypts your internet traffic, so snoopers can't see what you're up to.
Good to know. Okay, talking about snoopers, what about those phishing scams you hear about all the time? How can we avoid falling for those, especially at work?
Be super careful with any emails or links that seem even a little bit fishy, especially ones that ask for personal info or login details.
Okay.
Always hover over the link before clicking, see where it's really taking you,
Right.
and double check the sender's email address. Like if it's from Amazon instead of Amazon, you know something's up.
Yeah, red flag.
Definitely. And if anything seems off, report it to IT right away.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. They can check it out and protect the company.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, lots of practical tips to stay safe online. But let's zoom out for a second. How can we advocate for more privacy at work, especially as all these monitoring tools get more and more advanced?
It all starts with having open and honest conversations with your employer.
Okay.
Ask about their monitoring practices. What info are they collecting? What are they using it for? How long do they keep it?
So we have a right to know what's being tracked.
Transparency is crucial. And if you feel like a policy is too intrusive or just unfair, speak up. It's about finding that balance between security and privacy. And it takes both sides working together.
It's a reminder that this isn't just about the tech. It's about people and how we use these tools in a way that respects everyone's rights.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's not about employees versus employers. It's about finding a way to make this digital world work for everyone.
Well said. I think this deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a complex topic, this whole world of acceptable use policies and digital monitoring. And things are changing all the time. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that we're not powerless. We can be informed, we can be proactive, and we can have open conversations to protect ourselves and our companies.
I completely agree. It's about understanding the rules, taking responsibility for our actions, and working together to create a digital workplace that's both secure and respectful.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AUPs. It's been fascinating. if a little unnerving at times. But until next time, stay safe and stay informed out there.